Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, the most stupid country in the world to live in or even to be born in nowadays. The only country who has imposed economic sanctions upon itself, cutting off its own foots from the knee and its own hands from the elbow. Stupid country. Well, it looks like Wales and Scotland have serious problems with their funding for next year, where they have £1 billion black hole to fill, which probably means now, because, they get free prescriptions and all those type of things. So it probably means that, all of those things might have to stop. And I think, I think there's free education and that type of stuff up there, so there's a lot of different freebies the Scots and the Welsh give, the people in their countries that we in England do not benefit from, because in England every single thing has an economic value to it, whether it's looking after children or whether it's looking after OAPs. Doesn't matter, whether it's a hospital car park or whether it's, your local electric company. It doesn't matter. Every single thing in England has a price. And now they've, the English, because it's the English government where most of this funding comes from. So because that's central government, even though they're devolved powers, still their funding mainly comes from our central government. It's all, it's all divvied up, and then they've got this Barnett formula, and then whatever formula they use with the Welsh. So the same type of thing, what's happening to so many councils, why so many councils, if you notice, have gone bankrupt. And you've got to remember that a lot of the councils, a lot of them would have been getting rebates from the EU on certain things. They'd get rebates, or they'd have certain money allocated for certain things, and the EU would have worked in advance of those things. So a lot of councils may well have been expecting something from the EU in the future, right? You might have been 2 or 3 years or 4 or 5 years, but they knew it was coming, so they budget for all these type of things as well, right? And then plus, they've had a lot of cuts from central government, have just been cutting, whatever it is. Yeah, they're just like, no. People don't, the people of this country, they don't deserve that. So that's how they've lived for so long, and now that shit is spreading over to Scotland and to Wales as well. So these guys have got like massive. I mean, when I say it's £1 billion, so that is going to hit their budgets like really, really hard. So the people of Scotland and Wales, you can expect them to be, you can expect them to be quite annoyed, right? That a lot of their services now are going to be cut. We've already had that in England, from since like, when Cameron and Osborne came in with their austerity measures. That was just all about just cutting whatever services they can cut. So whether that's a local youth club, or or even things like X-ray services and all those type of things, because all those things, they've got a value, right? And that value is to give it to private individuals. So private individuals can then make loads of money out of it, when the money's really supposed to be just like circling around in our economy, but it's going out. So now Scotland and Wales, right, face like, I mean, this next year is going to be really, really tough. I could imagine, and especially, you see, the reason why the Tories do a lot of these things, yeah, is because they know it works very, very well for votes for them, right? If they can disrupt, Scotland and Wales, and then because, oh look, well, they're devolved powers, and look, being run by by Labour and the Scottish Nationals, and look. Right, so they know that they can do that. So by underfunding them, I mean, they've done it to Sadiq Khan as well. They made Sadiq Khan bring in the ULEZ, right? It was I think Boris Johnson's in the first place, right? But what they done was they just said to Sadiq Khan, well, you know what? If you want funding for this, then this is what you're going to have to do. So they made him do that. And then, they said it in the contracts that they made sure that he couldn't back out. So they wanted, so even though the Tories are saying to you, oh no, the ULEZ is terrible on working people, they brought it in, and they just impose these things and make the Labour do the things that the Tories want them to do. And Labour, all the time are just stupid enough to just go along with it, because you see, none of these politicians are working for the people in this country. And you can probably name America as well like that. Yeah, they don't work for the people in this country. And even a politician going into politics might think to themselves, well, you know what, I'm going in there to do real good. I'm going to do real good when I get into politics. But you can know bollocks to that, because you are an individual, and an individual cannot do anything. Right? You cannot do anything in politics, right? That's like you going into like an F1 race with an escort, right? You're not going to get anywhere. You have no chance of getting anywhere at all, because that's already set up, and you, right, would need 300 people behind you before you can make any changes. And it's impossible to get 300 of them behind you all the time, right? So you can make real changes in this country, because this country is not set up for that. This country is set up for them to run it in the way how it is being run already. So when they say to you, oh, we think we should get real change, there's no real change to be had. Right? Because even people like your Reform and people like that, who people are saying, oh yeah, Reform, right? All that's going to do is that's just going to have a bigger brain drain on this country. Bringing in people like Reform, or the even further right Tories, just gives you a brain drain, because this is what you've got to understand. And I'm going to tell you this once and once only, right? And just let me check to make sure that nobody is watching. We're all clear. Most doctors and nurses, right, are lefties and liberals, right? You get very few that are going to be right wing, because right wing people are not caring. So it's not like they're not going to really go into those. You might get some that are maybe some surgeons and stuff and stuff like that, but they know that under the Tories, I mean, if they're really caring individuals, they know under the Tories that you're not going to get the funding that you need. It's just not going to happen, right? And that's the reason why Scotland and Wales are in the position that it's in, because they're not being run by Tories. If they was being run by Tories, believe me, the funding would be a lot better. If those two countries were being run by Tories, the funding would be much, much better. But because they're not, the Tories will always make sure that they disrupt everything they can. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. A special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. And that opening just lasted a bit longer than I actually thought it was going to. But we've got a cost of living crisis in this country, and we've got Battersea Dogs Home who are talking about they've got more dogs stuck in that they just cannot they cannot rehome, because people obviously are going through the cost of living crisis. Even though, right, you can buy dog food and cat food and rabbit food and pigeon food and budgie or parrot food, right? Because you just the pigeons. Let's just give the pigeons rice. I think that's one of the best things to give them and ducks, right? And that's if you feed pigeons, because you shouldn't feed pigeons. But if you do, you mustn't give them bread. But Battersea Dogs Home, and they're saying that a lot of this is down to the cost of living crisis. Even though you can go to like the pound shop, like Poundland, or I'm sure there's other pound shops available, but you can buy pet food and that in there. But in saying that, obviously pets are very they're quite expensive to keep. And a lot of people they accumulate. They might accumulate some pets, so they might have like 2 dogs and 2 or 3 or 4 cats. But if you are a cat person, then you will understand, yeah, that cats are, well, they might just turn up at your house and just choose you and just come look and just look around. Yeah, well, it's not too bad, eh? Yeah, I might stay here for a while, because that's what cats are like. They're just like, they're just like, because you've got to understand, with a cat, right, they have staff. You work for the cats. Dogs are like, dogs need an owner so that they can please, because dogs will, you throw a ball, the dog will go and get it, right? Now, some cats, you can play fetch with some cats, right? But only when they're ready. Not when you're, it's like, if you want to play catch, if you think you can play catch with me anytime you're ready, then you need to go and get yourself a dog. That's how the cat's just sitting there just thinking, I ain't catching that. I ain't fetching that ball. You go and fetch your own ball. But then when the cat's ready, the cat will bring the ball to you and say, throw this. I'll go get it for you. Right? So, a lot of people, that's how they get caught up in. That's how they get caught up in this. But so many now, back to the dogs hub, just so many dogs that cannot be rehomed because of the cost of living crisis that this country is really, really suffering. Because, as the price of things have just rocketed, right? So you've got people because a lot of people, they bought dogs over the pandemic and that. So a lot of those dogs will be, they're abandoning, on the streets, or just taken into into dogs' homes and things like that, and just start saying, well, what, I can't really, some of them just leave them on the street and stuff like that, which is very, very sad, because this country is a nation of dog lovers. So it's very, very, very sad to see this going on, because I don't know what's going to, long term, what's going to happen. Some of these dogs will probably have to be destroyed, which is just like, but all of that is down to the cost of living crisis. And then we move over again to even more cost of living crisis, because we are facing the worst dentist crisis for 75 years in this country. 75 years. Because, from a long time now, as I said, everything has a monetary value in this country. So from the longest of time, they've taken away our dental services. Even children now are having problems finding an NHS dentist. So I just, from the story I saw this morning, it's just like, it's kind of horrendous, because you've got people who are pulling out their own teeth, right, with pliers, right, pulling out their own teeth. Right. So, and we are living in, right, what's one of the first world countries we're living in, but because every single thing has a value to it. It's a long time ago that they've basically made all of the dentists go private, when they should just be like, well, if you're gonna pay GPs. I mean, even the GPs are more or less private as well, but their wage is probably about between 90 and 110 grand, right, on a GP. So, I mean, that's what they should be paying a dentist, to say, listen, right, we'll pay you this, right, you just fix teeth. We'll supply you with everything we need. But you see, the whole NHS, right, is being run in such a shabby way. It's the most shabby way you could absolutely imagine, because the NHS has got so much potential, right, to literally be self-funding as well, right? From obviously, from the money from the what we're supposed to pay for, like our NI money. That's supposed to really be ring things, but it's never has been. All the money just goes into one pot, and then they just disperse it how they want to disperse it, right? But the NHS has got so much potential, because the NHS uses so much stuff, and if the NHS, the government, right, was producing all of the stuff themselves that they use, right, they could then be selling the same stuff to other countries. Right. So you see, like, things like crutches or bandages or paracetamol, right? all those type of things. They should have their own factories where they're produced, because they know how much they use. It's not like they don't know how much they use. And things like, things like paracetamol and stuff like that, the patent has gone a long time ago, so you can probably produce these things yourself with patent free, because the plans for everything that's out there, right? So they could, all the shoes and everything what they give you, right? All those things, your hospital gowns, all those things should be produced in this country so that they can sell them as an NHS product all over the world. But oh no. No. The NHS has got to be run for individuals to make billions of pounds off of it. Right? Because all these contracts where they've got the NHS where they're paying like, £15 plus VAT for a ream of paper. Right? The same paper that I can go to the local pound shop and get for £2.50. And they're paying something like 15 quid for it, plus VAT. So you can imagine all the way along the line, all those people, right, are just taking and taking and taking and taking. That's the reason why the whole service is being run so badly, because you've got so many private individuals taking and taking and taking out of it. So that's one of the reasons why we have the worst crisis in our dental services for 75 years, where even children, local children, can't get to see a dentist. This, we've got to say, is a position where we should all feel very ashamed to be in this country. Dame Esther has joined Dignitas because obviously you know that she's suffering with a terminal cancer, and she wants to choose time of her own demise. She wants to choose time of her own passing. Do you know what I mean? And and she wants to do it with assisted dying. But strangely enough, you as the family members, you can't go with them. But was it Dame Diana Rigg, I think, who I read about her like a few years back, and she was suffering from a cancer, and she really wanted to have a peaceful death, but she died in complete and utter agony, because in this country is so backward, so behind, that it would prefer people to die in agony and have people's last memories, their last memories to their families of them losing complete control of their bowels and all these types. That is what this country does to people, where they say, no, you can't assist no one. And assisting someone to die, who is terminally ill, right, is not assisting someone to die who wants to commit suicide. Right? Someone who wants to commit suicide, right, doesn't need no assistance. They will just go and do that shit themselves, right? But someone who's terminally ill could well need assistance, right? So, and I mean, even that, it's out of reach for for people who are less well off, because to join Dignitas, it costs us like 12-15 grand. So so it's quite a bit of money as well. So and in this country, even if you was to help someone, and they left a video saying, listen, I'm of sound mind, and I've asked my brother, my sister, my friend, my auntie, my uncle, my mum, my dad to help me, my son, my daughter to help me, and I don't want anything to happen to them afterwards, they'll still take you to court. Even with the video, they'll still take it to court. I think they're trying to change the law now, because it's not something, you're not really going to get found guilty. But the problem is they might have you on, they could well have you on remand, because they'd have you on like a manslaughter charge. So there's a good chance that you'll be on remand. And if you don't know how the system works, because if you're on remand, then like you could probably get out on with like a judge in chambers. But when the thing is, a lot of times when you're in jail, they don't tell you this type of shit, so people won't know that type of thing, right? But that's what will happen to you. They certainly will charge you, and it's whether or not they, the magistrate or the judge looks into the story of what's happened, or if they just say, well, look, it's a manslaughter charge. No, man, I'm not reading none of this. You just go on remand, because with these type of charges, you cannot get bail, right? So, so it could work out very, very difficult. And I mean, Esther Ransom, she's saying, that she doesn't want to her family to see her dying in pain. Because I mean, look, if you've got like a dog or a cat or whatever, and the vet says to you, listen, you know what, this animal's in real pain, and you're just prolonging. You're just prolonging its life. So, the best thing we can do. You wouldn't allow an animal to suffer. And I mean, they'd probably take you to court if you did. Right, if you did allow the animal to suffer in that way, they probably would have, especially the RSPCA would have a lot to say about it. So they allow it. We wouldn't allow it for an animal, but someone who can speak to you and tell you how they're actually feeling. We're just like, nah, no, we want you to have a slow, painful death, right? And we want your family's last memories to be of you losing all your bodily controls. It's horrible. Teachers are to be made to tell parents that if the child comes to them and says to them, listen, I feel like I'm a girl, then you have to tell them, listen, this is just part of the culture wars, just part of picking on whichever minority you can find to try and kick the hell out of, right? Whether it's the blacks and the Asians and the Jews, or whether it's the trans, the gays and the lesbians, doesn't really matter, right? We can cause a fight, right? And we can make it look to our base as if to say, you know what, we're getting at those people, right? I can't imagine that there's going to be many parents out there who don't know that their child is trans. I just can't imagine this. I mean, when your son starts to wear a skirt with Ugg boots and a boob tube and starts to have his nails did, then you'd be like, well, you're waiting for like lipstick and a floral dress, So and then if a child is hiding it from their parents, then you have to wonder why they would hide something that is going to be so visual very, very soon. So I think that, the Tories, Kemi Badenoch, another crazy one, is just blowing this shit all out of proportion. Look, I'm a male. I've always felt like a male. So obviously I have absolutely no clue what it would feel like to feel that I'm in the wrong body. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Right? I'm a straight male. Right? And, so unless you've got trans people doing I suppose what the girls used to do at my school. I mean, the girls in my school, they would leave home, right, with their skirt, and their skirt would be well below the knee, right, and they walk round the corners of their house, right, and then as they're round the corner, like, check to see if mum and dad's there, or uncle, or auntie, or next door neighbour, dad's friend, mum's friend. Check. Right. I used to watch them. Then they'd hitch the skirt up so it's above the knee now. I've just seen what you've just done. You just all looked at me and say, like, you used to watch them. Yeah, what do you want me to do? Watch boys? When I was at school, I used to watch the girls. Didn't watch the boys, okay? Not so much. Not at all, in fact. Right? But so unless trans people are doing that, I just can't see how someone, because I mean, that's not like, trans is not like, your child being gay, where they hide that from you, right? Trans is something, because you're going to be able to tell by the clothing that they wear, right? Literally, you're going to be able to look and say, well, my son is in my son's got on a boob tube and and very small shorts. Do you know what I mean? So you're gonna know pretty sharpish. So I think this is just another part of the culture wars where the Tories just like to play all their culture wars bullshit. And you know something, I've already taken up so much time as it is, because I was only like 10 minutes, but you know how these things go, right? But let's talk about some Brexit. and this deal with America, because Britain is still trying to bang on to try and push some deal with America. But Joe Biden has dashed hopes of Britain of a post-Brexit transatlantic trade deal with the UK as he tries to bolster his bid for next year's election. So, as Obama said, right, it's back of the queue territory, because, it's just amazing, like, oh, hey, look. But ministers have not given up, according to Whitehall sources speaking to the Daily Telegraph, who say the agreement could be revived under a second Donald Trump administration. So that's what they're hoping out. That's what they're hoping for. Now, they said this the last time Donald Trump was in power. I was trying to explain to people, that a president, a prime minister, cannot just give you a trade deal. Trade deals don't work like that. It's not, this is not the Trump organization. It's the United States of America. You just can't just say, I'm just giving you a trade deal. It doesn't work like that. But, you try and tell people this shit, right? And because the politicians have just been lying and lying and lying to them, that's all the politicians do. They just lie. And just tell people what they want to hear, knowing, right? Look, if you can look at the whole island thing, right, where they said, the borders and, and they just lied about it, right? And now this country and the islands trade is just a complete mess. And the same thing here, where they're saying, they said that before when Trump was in. And then you try and explain to people, you just cannot just get a trade deal just like that. Things don't work like that. But because they hear politicians saying, oh no, we can just do this. It's just how it works, isn't it? So, Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to wrap this up because I have to finish now. Because, look, I've gone well over my time. I was just saying, what? I only had a couple of stories. I was only going to do 10 minutes. But the opening was so goddamn long. And then the rest of the stories was quite long as well. But anyway, I'm still going on. My friends, I shall see you again tomorrow. This is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.